She said she loved me, then sold the ring on Marketplace before I even proposed. I'd been saving for 2 years, counting coins like little oaths I whispered to my future. A tip folded into my wallet instead of a late-night taxi, a new phone postponed, a jacket repaired rather than replaced. I kept the savings in a boring, grown-up account with an ugly name. Every time the balance clicked upward, I imagined dawn touching the ridgeline in the Carpathians, the grass silver with frost, Alina rubbing her hands together and laughing at her own breath like a kid. I imagined kneeling, not dramatic, just steady, and saying the sentence I'd practiced out loud until it stopped sounding like a line and started sounding like me. The ring wasn't extravagant. It was meticulous. I spent months learning to speak jeweler, pavé, prongs, clarity grades. The diamond wasn't huge, but it was clean and bright, set in a soft, knife-edge band that looked like it was already telling a story. The box was my grandfather's. Walnut with a weary hinge and velvet that kept the scent of old cologne if you pressed your nose close enough. The first time I opened it, it sighed like a book you haven't opened in years. I held the ring under a desk lamp and noticed a hairline nick by one prong, where the setter had clamped it to polish. It was the kind of imperfection only someone in love or in debt would see. I didn't mind. I liked the idea that even perfect things admit how they're held together. I hid the box in a winter coat I never wore, folded in a shoebox, buried at the back of the wardrobe behind a leaning tower of bills and warranties. The plan was simple and extravagant. An overnight train west, a rented car that coughed on hills, a guest house with wood paneling and carpets that remembered everybody's feet, sunrise on a Polonina, thermos, blanket, a camera on a tiny tripod to catch the cloud sea. I wrote the words I'd say in the Notes app, then deleted them, then rewrote them in plainer language, then deleted them again. I wanted to sound like myself. If the mountains could be honest, so could I. Alina said, "I love you," often and easily, sometimes in passing, like tossing me a scarf at the door. Sometimes she would stop and look at my mouth, as if checking whether it was still mine and say it slower, almost puzzled by her own sincerity. She had two ways of talking about money, disdain or dream. One weekend she'd call weddings a bourgeois circus, insist she wanted a city hall stamp and pizza afterward, claim that diamonds were rock advertising. The next, she'd open Instagram and save apartments with glass terraces and kitchens, where every jar had a label and a font. "I don't need fancy," she'd say, still saving the photo. She borrowed small sums with clean confidence. "Just 200, I'll send it back Friday. My card is capped again," she'd text. And on Friday, there would be a story about a deposit for a course she couldn't miss, or shoes her boss told her were non-negotiable for the event, or her mother's electricity bill she'd forgotten to plan for. I didn't keep score. I kept assumptions. I assumed love was a conversation between team members who sometimes fronted each other a little time. I told exactly one person about the plan. Maria, my friend, who has a heart like a locked cabinet and a face like a mirror that does not flatter you. I needed someone to overhear me wanting something that big. Maria listened without blinking, then said, "Practice kneeling. You'll wobble." I laughed. And later, when I tried it on the thin carpet, my left knee did wobble. Alina walked in, saw me stretching and said, "You'll tear your jeans, old man," and kissed my forehead absently on her way to water the basil we kept killing and resurrecting. There were moments that looked like a life already happening. She'd fall asleep on my chest during a documentary about houses on cliffs and mumble, "We could do that," as if a cliff was something you applied for. She rearranged our cupboard like a Tetris god and called her mother to ask about a recipe for little cheese pastries. And when the oven smoked, she laughed and waved a towel like an air hostess in an emergency. Once, on a tram, she leaned into me and whispered, "You're my safe place." And I thought safe places are usually ordinary from the outside. 2 windows, a plant, mismatched mugs. But someone inside is counting blessings like steps. I booked the train, then canceled it, then booked it again when prices changed. It felt ridiculous to be haggling in the shadow of a decision that would change the shape of every morning I'd have. We set the dates for the trip as a hike and a weekend off. I said it casually, and she lit up like a match. She loved itineraries as long as someone else wrote them. We went to a second-hand shop for a sweater that wouldn't show coffee if I spilled it in the car. She thumbed the sleeve, said, "Don't make it a big thing, okay? I just want to be with you." And the way she said it made me want to make it a bigger thing. The night before she was due to go out with a friend from her course, Anton, who showed up in stories as a pair of shoulders at the edge of the frame, she stood in the kitchen eating a slice of cheese straight from the wrapper. "Rich weddings are loud," she said, apropos of nothing. "All that money for noise," I said quietly. "We don't need noise." She looked at me over the cheese and smiled like she'd caught me trying to be philosophical, then flicked the corner of the wrapper into the bin and missed. When she left, The apartment felt like a shirt I used to fit. I took the box out to look at the ring the way you check a passport 3 times before you get in a taxi. The diamond flared under the desk lamp. The hairline nick was right where I remembered. I imagined sunlight grazing it so that even the flaw would look intentional, like a spark that forgot to go out. I put the box back and felt like I was placing a bird inside a drawer and telling it to wait. I fell asleep proofreading my own life in my head and woke up when my phone buzzed against the coffee table. The lock screen said 2237 and Meisha with 3 dots like footsteps. Maria rarely texted late unless it was a meme about bread or a reminder to drink water. I rubbed my face and opened the chat. "Is this yours?" she wrote, then a link. No greeting, no sarcasm, no breathing room. The preview thumbnail showed a small velvet box on a white table. The velvet was not the same color as my grandfather's, but the ring sat like a familiar stranger. Same slender band, same bright stone. The picture taken at the same slightly cruel angle jewelers use to make everything look bigger than it is. I told myself there are 10 million rings like 10 million raindrops. I told myself coincidences are either boring or terrible, and you never know which one you've got until you zoom in. My finger and thumb moved without my permission. The listing opened. Classic engagement ring, the description said, with the kind of punctuation someone uses when they're certain the word classic does most of the work. A price that made my mouth go dry. Urgent. Need to sell today. I tapped the photos one by one. The way you turn pages you're afraid will cut you. First, the ring in the box, tilted forward like a nod. Second, the ring on a fingertip, a blurry kitchen in the background. Third, just the setting. The focus was cruelly accurate, as if the camera had decided to tell the truth even if the rest of us didn't want to hear it. The prongs glinted like commas, and near the left claw, exactly where a jeweler's clamp would bite for a second if he was in a hurry on a Tuesday afternoon, the metal sank and rose again in a hairline nick that wasn't a shadow and wasn't a trick. Do you know that click you feel in your chest when the puzzle you didn't want to solve assembles itself? It was small and final, like a key turning in a door to a room you forgot you rented. I didn't breathe for a count of 5, my ears filled with the sound of my own blood. I pinched the screen and zoomed farther until the pixels broke into squares. But the scratch didn't disappear. It stayed where it had always been, like a confession cut into metal. The chat window slid over the photo as Maria typed again. "Don't freak out," she wrote, which is the same as telling your body not to be made of nerves. I could be wrong, but that scratch. She sent a second screenshot, another photo. A mirror behind the hand. A bracelet I'd seen 100 times fastened too tight on a wrist that had pressed into my palm while we crossed a street. I put the phone face down on the table as if it could see me. The room looked rearranged, though nothing had moved. In the next room, the winter coat I never wore sat quiet in its shoebox. A door within a door. I lifted the phone again and typed, "Where did you find this?" But my hands were blunt and clumsy and autocorrect tried to make everything polite. Maria replied before I could send mine. "Marketplace," she wrote, and then, after a breath I could feel through the screen. "I'm serious. Is it your ring?" I didn't answer Maria right away. I just stared at the screen, feeling my stomach fold in on itself like paper. I wanted to believe in coincidence, but coincidence doesn't wear your girlfriend's bracelet. Coincidence doesn't copy the exact scratch you saw under a jeweler's lamp. My thumb hovered over the call button and then pulled back. I couldn't let my voice shake where she could hear it. I typed instead, "Send me the profile." The seller's account was bare. No photo, no bio. Joined 2 weeks ago. Selling only one item. It wasn't the kind of profile that spent years reselling winter coats and old phones. It was the kind that existed for one transaction, my ring. I sat there until my phone buzzed again. A notification from the listing itself. "Still available? Message now." I clicked before I could think. The chat box opened. Me. "Hi, is it still available?" Seller. "Yes, but need to sell today." Me. "Could we meet near Gulliver around 6? Seller. "Perfect. Cash only." It was too fast. No hesitation. Whoever was behind that profile was desperate or certain. My heart pounded so loud I almost didn't hear the apartment door click. Alina came in, tossing her bag on the couch, humming something from the radio. She smiled when she saw me, leaned down and kissed my temple. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, laughing softly. "What's up?" My throat closed. I swallowed. "Where's your bracelet?" The words fell out like loose change. She blinked, then laughed again, lighter this time. "What? Which one? The silver?" "Yes." She shrugged, opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water, broke a clasp, gave it to Katya to fix. "Why?" She sipped and raised an eyebrow at me like I'd asked about the weather in a foreign city. My phone was face down on the table, the screen still glowing underneath. I heard the marketplace ping again. Another message. I wanted to throw the phone out the window. Instead, I forced a smile that hurt my teeth. Just thought I saw it somewhere. She grinned, leaned against the counter and said, "You're acting weird." Don't go paranoid on me. She reached over and flicked my forehead. A playful tap. Then she vanished into the shower, singing over the water. I picked up the phone and stared at the conversation with the seller. The green dot said, "Active now." My hands were damp. Later that night, after she fell asleep, I opened her bag. I knew it was wrong. I knew if she woke and saw me, there would be a war I couldn't explain. But I did it anyway. I found receipts, lip balm, a charger, no bracelet, no jewelry box, no proof, just absence. The next morning, Maria called me. "Are you going?" she asked, her voice quiet as if even the air shouldn't know. "I have to," I said. My voice cracked, and she didn't mention it. "You need proof," she whispered. "Otherwise, she'll just twist it. Don't confront her yet." Proof. The word stuck. At 5:30 that evening, I walked to Gulliver. The winter light was thin, turning glass buildings into pale mirrors. My stomach was a stone. I stood by the fountain, my hands in my pockets, pretending to scroll my phone. And then I saw them. Not just her, and him, Anton. His tall frame, his too bright jacket, Alina beside him, holding a small paper bag like it contained nothing more than groceries. They didn't see me. They were laughing, heads close. I froze. My phone buzzed in my hand. The seller's chat. "Here, where are you?" I looked up. She opened the bag a little, enough for Anton to peek in. He nodded. She whispered something and tucked it close again. My pulse was a hammer in my chest. I lifted my phone, typed with fingers that wanted to shake. Me. Black coat by fountain. Her phone pinged. I saw her pause, glance around, then whisper something to him. He scanned the plaza. And in that moment, before they could see me, before I could choose whether to walk forward or vanish, I realized they weren't just trying to sell any ring. They were trying to sell mine, together. The chat blinked again. "We can meet in 5. Where exactly?" I looked at them. At the paper bag. At her hand brushing his sleeve like it belonged there. I felt something in my chest tear like thin fabric. I typed, "I'll come to you," and I started walking. I walked slowly at first, as if each step gave me a few seconds to decide whether I was really about to do this. Alina's head was turned toward Anton, her hair falling over her face. He said something that made her laugh, low and secretive. The kind of laugh I thought was only mine. When I reached them, I stopped just a breath away. "Funny place to sell groceries," I said. Alina spun, her eyes widening, a flicker of guilt snapping across her face before she pasted on surprise. "Max, what are you doing here?" She clutched the paper bag to her chest like it was fragile. Anton froze, his hands shoved too deep into his pockets. He looked everywhere except at me. "I'm here for the ring," I said. My voice didn't shake. It surprised me how steady it sounded. The silence stretched. Alina blinked, her lips parting. But no words came. Anton shifted his weight. Finally, she laughed, brittle and sharp. "What are you talking about? Don't be ridiculous." I reached into my coat and pulled out the folded receipt from the jeweler, the one I kept in my wallet for safekeeping. I held it up. Serial number, date, store. I glanced at the bag, and a little scratch on the setting that makes it mine. Alina's smile collapsed. She hugged the bag tighter. "It's not what you think," she hissed, her eyes darting to Anton as if begging him to step in. But he didn't. He muttered, "Just explain it," and took a half step back. My heart pounded. I wasn't angry yet. I was cold, calculating. "Go on then," I said. "Explain why you're here with him, trying to sell something I bought for you." Alina's voice rose, shrill around the edges. "I was going to change the setting, Max. You picked the cheapest band and I thought, it's for us, it's supposed to look better. We needed money up front." Anton cut in, his words spilling out. "We just needed the cash now. A deposit for the apartment. She was going to tell you." Something inside me snapped. "An apartment? With him?" Alina flinched, her face contorting. "Don't twist it. It's not like that. Anton's just helping me. You never understand what it's like trying to build a life fast. You save every coin, but you don't take risks. I did this for us." People were slowing down, looking. A couple passing by stopped near the fountain, pretending to check their phones while obviously eavesdropping. The shame burned her cheeks red. I took a step closer, lowered my voice so only they could hear. "You did this for you, and you dragged him into it." I pulled my phone out, opened the recording app, and hit play. A minute of muffled audio filled the air, her voice laughing softly, saying, "Half's yours, okay? He'll never know." And Anton replying, "As soon as it sells, we put the deposit down." Her face drained of color. She lunged at me, trying to grab the phone, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said flatly. Anton swore under his breath. "You recorded us?" His eyes darted around at the people watching, realizing just how public this had become. "Yeah," I said, "because I knew you'd lie." Alina's breathing quickened, ragged. "You can't just humiliate me here. You can't—" I cut her off. "You did this to yourself. You said you loved me, Alina. Over and over. And while you said it, you were planning this. The plaza seemed too quiet. My voice felt heavier than it should have, but it carried. She bit her lip, eyes glassy. But even then she couldn't admit it. "It's not what you think," she whispered again. Broken. But the words had no weight anymore. Anton tugged her sleeve. "Let's just go," he muttered. "Forget this." She stared at me one last time, like maybe if she looked hard enough she could make me doubt what I knew. But the truth was louder than her eyes. Finally, she turned and walked fast, Anton at her side, the paper bag clutched so tightly her knuckles went white. I stood there with the recording still playing faintly in my hand, the crowd dispersing, my body numb. The box wasn't back in my coat, and the sunrise proposal in the mountains was gone. All that remained was the sound of her voice, admitting enough to destroy everything we had. I stopped the recording and slipped the phone into my pocket. For the first time since buying that ring, I felt the full weight of what it meant. How love, if it's real, doesn't need to be pawned off for quick cash. But she had tried, and I'd seen it with my own eyes. And yet, despite everything, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the unraveling. That night she came back. I thought she wouldn't, that she and Anton would disappear into whatever plan they'd been hatching. But close to midnight the door rattled and she slipped inside. Her hair was damp from rain, her coat half-buttoned, her face pale and drawn. She stood in the doorway of the living room where I sat with the lights low, my phone on the table like a witness. "Max," she whispered, as if the walls might overhear. I didn't answer. She took a shaky step forward, her hands twisting together. "I need to explain." I laughed, short and sharp. "Explain how you tried to sell the ring I bought for you. Or explain how Anton magically appears every time you're short on cash." She flinched. "I love you," she said, her voice cracking. "You know I love you, but you don't listen. You hoard money like it's holy. You picked a band that looked like it belonged in a pawn shop. I just wanted to upgrade it. For us. And Anton was only helping. That's all." The audacity of it made my chest burn. "Helping you steal from me? Helping you sell something before I'd even had the chance to put it on your finger?" Her eyes flashed with anger now, tears standing in them but not falling. "Don't call it stealing. You were going to give it to me. It was mine already. Mine to decide what to do with." Those words landed heavier than any slap. I sat forward staring at her. "Mine? It was a promise. And you broke it before it even existed." She broke then, or pretended to. She dropped onto the couch, covered her face, and sobbed, her shoulders shaking. "I'm drowning," she said through her hands. "Debts, bills, pressure. You don't understand. You save, you wait, you plan. But sometimes you have to act. I thought if I sold it and doubled it, we'd finally be ahead. We'd finally be free." Gaslighting wrapped in desperation. She wanted me to feel guilty for not giving her the right kind of ring. Guilty for not handing her cash faster. Guilty for being steady when she wanted chaos. I spoke carefully. "If you're drowning, you don't cut holes in the life raft." Her sobs faltered. She peeked through her fingers, calculating. Then she lowered her hands and tried again, softer this time. "Please, Max. Don't throw this away. I made a mistake. A stupid mistake. But I still want us." I stared at her, feeling nothing but cold. "Then unlock your seller account," I said. She blinked. "What?" "The marketplace account. Give me the password. Prove it's over." Her face shuddered. "I can't. I deleted it." "No, you didn't," I said, pulling up the listing still live on my phone. "It's active. Updated 2 hours ago." Her mask slipped. Anger surged back. "So what, you're spying on me now? You think controlling my accounts makes you better than me?" I sat back. There it was. She wasn't sorry, she was cornered. The next morning, Maria and I reached out to the woman who had messaged the seller about buying the ring. Her name was Irina, and she'd already sent a deposit. She was furious when she realized what was happening. She sent screenshots, photos of the ring on Alina's hand, texts that read, "Don't worry, genuine piece, I just need quick cash." Irina agreed to help. She'd play along, arrange a second meetup with Alina. This time, I'd be waiting too. When I hung up, Maria said quietly, "She's not going to stop until she's caught. You know that, right?" I nodded. My chest ached, but beneath the ache was steel. I had the receipt, the scratch, the recording, and now a buyer who could testify. All that was left was to watch the mask finally fall off her face in public, where even her excuses couldn't twist the truth. And part of me, the part that still remembered her laughing on trams and baking burnt pastries, almost wished she wouldn't show up at all, almost. But I knew she would, because people like Alina never believe the truth will catch them, until it does. Irina set it up for Saturday afternoon in a cafe near the university. Neutral ground, public enough to keep things from boiling over. The plan was simple. She'd arrive first, sit near the window, and message Alina. I would already be inside, at a table in the corner with Maria, pretending to work on my laptop. We'd wait until the exchange was about to happen, then step in. I barely tasted the hours before that meeting. My stomach felt hollow. My hands wouldn't stay still. Maria kept whispering, "Breathe, Max," as if air could fix betrayal. At 2 o'clock sharp, Alina walked in. Her hair was neat, her makeup careful, her coat immaculate. She looked like someone heading to an interview, not a sting. She spotted Irina, smiled that disarming smile I used to believe in, and slid into the seat opposite her. She placed the velvet box on the table with a little flourish, as though she were offering treasure. I saw it, my grandfather's box, the hinge slightly crooked, the velvet dulled at the edges. My chest tightened so hard I thought I'd choke. Irina played her role perfectly. She leaned in, murmured about the price, asked if she could see it up close. Alina opened the box, and the diamond caught the cafe's yellow light. There it was. The ring I had chosen. The ring that carried every hope I had stored away in quiet nights. That was my cue. I stood, Maria at my side. Chairs scraped. Alina's eyes flicked up, and the color drained from her face when she saw me. "Funny sales pitch," I said. My voice carried across the cafe. Conversations around us dipped into silence. Alina snapped the box shut instinctively, clutching it as though it were hers by birthright. "Max," she breathed, this isn't what you think." I walked to the table, pulled the receipt from my pocket, and laid it beside the box. Serial number, jeweler, date, and the scratch on the prong. "This ring isn't just mine. It's proof." She tried to laugh, brittle and high-pitched. "Stop making a scene. You're embarrassing yourself." I took out my phone and pressed play. The recording filled the air, her voice sharp and unmistakable. "Half's yours, okay?" "He'll never know." "And Anton's. As soon as it sells, we put the deposit down." The cafe went silent. Even the barista froze, milk pitcher suspended mid-pour. Alina's mask cracked. She slammed the box shut again, her voice trembling with fury. "You recorded me? You stalked me. You're pathetic." Irina spoke up, her voice steady. "You took my deposit. You lied to me. This is fraud." She pulled out her phone, showing screenshots of their conversation to the people nearest. Whispers rippled. A manager approached, frowning, asking if the police needed to be called. Alina's hands shook. For a moment she tried tears, eyes glistening, breath ragged. "I just wanted to make it better," she pleaded. "He bought the cheapest thing. I was trying to upgrade, to save us." I cut her off. "Love doesn't pawn promises. You said you loved me while planning to sell what I gave you before I even gave it." She looked at me then, really looked. And I saw it. Not shame, not sorrow, but calculation. Her tears dried too fast. Her voice dropped cold. "It was going to be mine anyway. Mine to use. You act like you're generous, but you're just controlling. You never gave me the choice." Gasps stirred around us. Anton appeared at the door, his face pale, moving toward her. "We should go," he muttered, reaching for her arm. I stepped back, letting everyone see what they were. Two people caught in their own lie, cornered by proof they couldn't twist. The manager's phone was already at his ear. Alina's fury dissolved into panic. She shoved the box onto the table, as though discarding evidence. "Fine, take it. Keep your stupid ring." Anton tugged her away, and she let him. They pushed through the staring crowd and fled into the street, whispers chasing them out. I stood over the box, my chest hollow, my hands trembling. Irina touched my shoulder lightly. "You got it back," she said. But in that moment, it didn't feel like victory. The ring lay there in velvet, heavy with everything it no longer meant. I picked it up, closed the box carefully, and for the first time since buying it, I felt its true weight, not of gold or stone, but of truth. And the truth was brutal. She had said she loved me, and then sold that love on Marketplace for cash. A week passed before I could look at the ring without my stomach twisting. I locked it back in my grandfather's box and pushed it deep into the wardrobe again, behind coats and forgotten receipts. The plan for the mountains was canceled. Tickets refunded. The silence in the apartment was heavy but clean, like the air after a storm. Alina didn't come back this time. Instead, her sister Katya showed up one evening, a bag of pastries in hand, wearing the same stubborn expression that ran in their family. She didn't sit. She leaned against the doorframe and crossed her arms. "You didn't have to make it public," she said flatly. Alina was humiliated. That was cruel. I laughed bitterly. Cruel? She tried to sell the ring I hadn't even given her yet. With her boyfriend at her side, Katya rolled her eyes. "You don't understand us. In our family, you do what you have to do. Sometimes that means telling half-truths. You act like everything's black and white, but life isn't like that." I shook my head. "Maybe not, but stealing isn't a shade of gray." Her gaze hardened. Then she turned and left without another word. I closed the door and leaned against it, my pulse still racing. Their family had a way of bending reality until lies felt like survival. I was glad I'd stepped out of that circle. A month later, Alina finally messaged me. A wall of text filled with apologies and excuses. I was scared. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I still love you. I miss us. At the bottom, she begged me not to tell anyone else. Begged me to remember what we'd had. I didn't reply, but curiosity made me open her social media. There she was in her stories, smiling on a balcony of a new apartment, a glass of wine in her hand, Anton's reflection faint in the window behind her. It stung. Of course it did. But mostly, I felt relief. She had chosen her path, and I no longer had to walk it with her. 3 months later, I went to the Carpathians alone. The guest house was quiet, the trails empty. I carried no velvet box, only a thermos of coffee and a camera. At dawn, I stood on the ridge and watched the sky crack open with pink and gold. The mountains breathed mist around me. I pulled a small stone from the ground, held it in my palm, then set it gently on the peak. It wasn't the proposal I had imagined. It was a farewell. To her, to the version of myself that thought love could be proven with gold, to the idea that promises once spoken were safe. Love, I realized, isn't what you say in warm kitchens or on crowded trams. It's what you refuse to sell when the price looks tempting. And she had sold it quickly and easily. I turned, walked down the trail, and felt lighter with every step.